Joining the 20th century workforce meant enduring some truly jaw-dropping occupational hazards, all because people liked seeing their watches glow in the dark. You thought your job had a toxic workplace. By now, modern industry has done a decent job vetting hazardous elements we might accidentally come in contact with in the workplace. Lead was slowly removed from paint starting in 1960, although it still exists in certain paints today. We all know that handling mercury with our bare hands is a dumb idea, although some cosmetic products still contain it. In the late 1800s, arsenic pills hit the market as a way to beautify skin, only to cause arsenic poisoning.
We mix together quicksilver, arsenic, and butter. And then we smear it on our scalps.
Radium is another lesser-known example of a toxic metal that once made its way into household goods. In the early 1900s, businesses cropped up across the United States that used radium paint. The chemical element glows in the dark, the kind of nifty gimmick that still catches people's attention nowadays. It's also naturally radioactive and sheds alpha particles, a byproduct of some radioactive elements. In fact, it's so radioactive that today it's used to treat some types of cancer that spread to the bones. 100 or so years ago, though, radium's toxicity wasn't well understood. Back then, Radium Girl factory workers applied radium-infused paint to clock and watch faces. They used their lips to make the tips of their paintbrushes fine enough to apply detailed paintwork, and over time, those women suffered a host of horrific diseases, even having chunks of their jaws fall off. Ultimately, these women died one by one. Most were buried, but at least two, Peg Looney and Molly Maggia, were exhumed for research purposes. Radium must have seemed like a miracle product. Some product labels even boasted, "made possible by the magic of radium." Its glow was its allure. Aside from appearing on clock and watch faces, it was touted as an aphrodisiac, beautifier, and even medicine. By the time Radium Girls started dying, manufacturers were in too deep and didn't want to lose money. Even as the women succumbed to poisoning, manufacturers denied that there were any problems. Molly Maggia was the first Radium Girl to die at the age of 24 in 1922. Her mouth wouldn't stop bleeding, her breath turned rank, and her jaw started to rot. Eventually, it had to be removed. Other Radium Girls across the US suffered similar fates, including bone decay, cancer, joint problems, hemorrhaging, pregnancy issues, and much more. By 1927, over 50 such women had died. These women were employed by several radium-based companies, including the US Radium Corporation and Radium Dial Company. But because they worked at a variety of factories across the United States, they were buried in various cemeteries across the country. Not all of their grave locations are known, but Find a Grave has a list of 19 burial sites across 11 cemeteries in New Jersey, Illinois, and Connecticut.
I want to tell you about radium. A most peculiar and remarkable element.
French physicist Marie Curie discovered the existence of radium and its radioactive properties in the late 1890s, a couple of decades before Radium Girls started getting sick and dying. Folks knew that lead blocked radiation, and we know that at least one Radium Girl, Peg Looney, was buried in a lead coffin in 1929. There's no information about the types of coffins in which the other Radium Girls were buried. Looney, like Maggia, was later exhumed for research purposes. As Kate Moore writes in The Radium Girls, each and every portion of tissue and bone tested, the doctors concluded, gave evidence of radioactivity. Maggia was later returned to a resting place in Rosedale Cemetery in Orange, New Jersey. A writer for Road Trippers reported visiting the Maggia sisters' graves carrying a Geiger counter to test radiation levels in the areas where they were buried, but said there were no increases in radiation from nominal, typically ambient levels. According to the Royal Society of Chemistry, a few of radium's isotopes decay in as little as about 3.5 days. Radium-226, however, the isotope used to paint clocks and watches 100 years ago, has a half-life of around 1,600 years. But its alpha particles can only travel about an inch, per the Washington Department of Health, which explains why a Geiger counter wouldn't detect any radiation above a Radium Girl's grave.